participants who are here with us. So we're right at 7. So thank you, everyone, for your interest in this session and for attending this webinar. This series is jointly organized by the Adult Education in International Context webinar series and the Global and International Engagement Unit at the School of Education. Our guest today is Professor Bo Chang, Professor of Adult and Community Education at Ball State University in Indiana. Her research includes the social aspect of adult learning in a variety of contexts, such as in social structure and learning, social relationships in learning, the collaborative nature of learning, etc. Dr. Chung has a book coming out in September called Changing Landscape to Adult Education. So watch out for that book. Besides her China focus, Dr. Chang has done research in Sweden, Highlander Education in the US, and other communities. And so the co-moderators today are Mary Eder of Criminal Justice. She's also a probation officer. And Erin Bruce, Associate Director of Employer Relations and Alumni Engagement. And myself, of course, professor in the School of Education and from the school, from the Global and International Engagement Unit in School of Education. The webinar today will take the form of 20 minutes of presentation from Dr. Chang and 30 minutes of questions approximately and answers from the audience. And so, however, we invite everyone who's attending this session to post your questions at any time, either in the Q&A session, Q&A panel, or in the chat. And so with that long introduction, Professor Chang, allow me and allow us to use your first name, Bo. Please proceed. Please introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about what you're doing.
Yeah, thank you so much for Dr. Pawan and also everyone to coming here and invite me for this seminar. I feel honored to be here. And so as I talked to Dr. Pawan that this actually is not my major interest. However, when I prepare for this presentation, I really feel like it really opens up my views to look at my major research interest is provide a much bigger context to look at my research project. So I have an extensive interest in adult education many years ago when I was in Shanghai. And so my advisor has a great interest in adult education, and he provided quite a lot of opportunities for me to really focus on the training and human resource development. That is a beginning my interest, what my interest lies on. So later, when I studied adult education program on doctorate degree in University of Georgia, I gradually developed a deep interest in social context of adult education, especially look at adult learning from sociological perspective. And so over the years, I noticed that actually when we study adult learning, it is impossible to ignore the bigger context, especially the social context of adult education and the social aspect of adult education. That's how I gradually developed the social aspect of adult education. And I did the learning communities in Shanghai, China. Actually, that is what I talk about, the harmonious society during that period of time. Actually, I did the learning community in Shanghai Jiabei district. And so when I prepared this presentation, I noticed their connections. I did not realize the background actually connect to the harmonious society at that time. Now I find a bigger connection there. And then then when we prepare this presentation, I also associated with the summer project I'm doing that is about the employment-based training offered by the government. So I will talk more about the this topic about the several decades of adult education in China, specifically under different leadership and how they evolved and why they changed to match the strategic goal in China. So I will share the presentation with you. So. Sorry. So I will first talk about the significant change in adult continuing education in China over the past 40 years and key milestones in adult education development, how adult education has transformed, addressing the evolving needs of society. So basically, Chinese adult education developed in different decades based on the different leaderships, priorities, and their national strategic goals. For example, the Chairman Mao Zedong, he was the founder father of the People's Republic of China, and he played a pivotal role in the Chinese Communist Revolution. And the second important leader is Deng Xiaoping. He actually is very famous for initiating the reform and opening up economy transform in China. And then the Hu Jintao, he's a third important leader in the development of China. So he pointed out harmonious society. And then the Xi Jinping, who is the current leader, who play a very important role, and he pointed out the Belt and Road Initiative and also called for the China Dream. That is a idea that he pointed out, which influenced China significantly. So the first leader, Chairman Mao, he built because he founded the new China, and workers and peasants, they play a significant role in this revolutionary, the period. So that's why he pointed out it is very important to build egalitarian society and offer educational opportunities, specifically for workers and peasants who were deprived of education opportunities in the past. And then the Deng Xiaoping, he is very famous for developing economy because the Chairman Mao's, his mistake in political period in 1950s, which disrupted the development of China. And not only economically, but also the in education. That's why he called for the opening up the economy to the outside world, which lead China to a great advance in economic development. And then, however, during this period of time, because of economy development in the west coast of China, and starting from there, there's caused a big divide between the west and the east, economically and also in other areas, which caused the society unstable. And that's how the who called for the communist society for the money to develop the whole person a peaceful society through process of lifelong education. And the Xi Jinping, he continues this harmonious society, but he pointed a much bigger view called China Dream to especially grant human society. So for this 4th generation of leaderships, they have a different focus. And before 1949, when China was new China was founded, there's mainly the popular education. And then in 1950s, focus more on workers and peasants education. There's literacy campaigns to really get rid of the illiteracy among the workers and peasants. And in 1960s and 70s, because of mistakes made by the Chairman Mao, and there's a disruption from a political movement, especially the Great Leap Forward. Its purpose is rapidly industrialize agriculture in China, but it's caused a lot of problems. And then the Cultural Revolution is to remove the capitalist and the traditional ideas. Both of this movement significantly influenced China and disrupt the Chinese development, and education was nearly like removed So that's why adult education was also disrupted. And then from 1978, the Deng Xiaoping called for economic reform and to recover this education system and also adult education and focus on the economic development. So from the 1978 until 2002, there's two stages. The first stage is really recover and adjustment, and the second is a reform and development. So adult education transit from Mao's socialism to market-oriented socialism, and adult education became essential for economic development, human capital development. So for these two stages, the first stage, because all the education was disrupted, that's why a lot of adults, they did not really have the K-12 education, as we call it. And so there's quite a lot of different ways to help people to quickly gain the education through, for example, radio and TV university and self-study exam system. And then the second stage, after this first stage, a lot of people, they already get the degree, get education, and then it's mainly focused on the job training and skill development. So adult education change from political tools to workforce development. It becomes an essential part of a lifelong learning. So because the economic reform significantly influenced the East Coast part of China, and these cities near the sea, you can say they developed very quick because the priorities were given to these places, and they have a very good policy to attract the foreigners to come to investigate on these areas. That's why they develop very rapidly. And adult education also adapt to the rapid market economy and on-the-job training. So during this period of time, there's some legal reform which plays an important role for adult education development. For example, adult education was recognized as an important part of a lifelong learning system. And it includes the vocational adult education system. And it is a part of the lifelong learning system, which is play a significant role for adult education development. And then from 1978 to 2002, the important thing we learned is that adult education became a strategic tool for national development and economic reform, and it laid foundation for lifelong education system in China. So 2002 to 2018, it is a society from harmonious society to the China dream, this kind of change. So like I said, the Hu Jintao pointed out the harmonious society from 2002 to 2012, and the Xi Jinping's China dream from 2013 to 2018. The adult education shifted from lifelong learning, towards lifelong learning, equity, and global engagement as their priority. So, and the reason they shift the political agenda is that from this picture, you can see that the economic reform, they started from those these cities near the sea in the east part of China, and gradually this started from 1980. And then in 1990, they focused on Shanghai as a leading city to develop the economic reform, and then gradually transform into the inside city like Chongqing. And however, when this city developed the east part of China, or in the middle part of China, they were underdeveloped. And so this caused quite a lot of problems. That's how the Hu Jintao pointed out harmonious society. And lifelong learning is just a tool to build such a harmonious society and to reduce the inequalities and promote community education. And so when I did my dissertation data collection, I remember in 2004, that actually this is during this period of time, and I collected data in the Shanghai Jiabi district. They talk about how this lifelong learning or lifelong learning community, their major purpose is not really to help learners to learn more skills, but to maintain the stable society, because the economy development, some people, they lost their jobs, some people, they have no other things to do, they may do the bad things. But for the community centers, they have a community center in near like each district. In this community center, they offer the free learning programs, consultation, movie, and entertainment, all these activities, and ask people in the community, they can come to enjoy these programs for free. So when they study there, learn there, they will not do the bad things like gamble or the steal, all these things. That's one way to keep the community safe and stable. So then because this you see this vast development, it's lasted for a decade, then it's gradually realized actually it's only rely on the inside of China to develop the west part of China. It is a very slow process, and you need to extend outside of China to have a further development. That's how in 2013, they pointed out the China Dream and Belt and Road Initiative. This actually Belt and Road Initiative built upon the strategies of Jiang Zemin's West development efforts since 1999. So the goal, the focus of the national goal is to develop economy and urbanization, and until 2049, achieve the full modernization and global leadership. So lifelong adult education and lifelong learning become a central role to achieve this national strategy development by emphasize on workforce skills development, and also provide skilled labor for the Belt and Road projects and cross-cultural exchange and innovation. So then this summer, when I did my project about the employment-based training in Inner Mongolia, this is a picture I took in Inner Mongolia when the nearly like one they call it Men. Actually, it isn't like for example state in Indiana. So this is a you can see that the government invests a lot of money for for this process of urbanization and industrialization, and they significantly invest on the infrastructure projects like railways, highways, telecommunications, airports, roads, and projects, especially in the countryside that have a significant change. And the left side, the small picture, you can see this is the regional, the peasants, they have the small lands. And then now they change to the big farmers. They don't have the small lands anymore. They purchase all these lands from the peasants, and they become the big investors. And then also you can, from the right side, you can see the railway was built in the countryside, and so that the food and the other products can be can be moved to the outside of China even, or moved to the other part of China to sell it easily. And also, surprisingly, even in a not so big city, actually, they have airport built up. This all the China actually invested quite a lot of money to build the airport and to build the road, and so that it will be easy for the business development. So here's also the project. They show in the countryside what kind of project they will do to develop the countryside, and also the right side you can see they use a modern big machine to invest in the farm, and instead of like in the past they mainly rely on a lot of labor work. So it's moved very quickly from the in the past, the small peasants owned small land to the big land. It's more industrialized compared with the past. So, and so the China's East Coast became the wealthy over the past decades due to economic reform in China. That's how it's become unbalanced, and that's how the harmonious society was pointed out, and that's how we we have this Belt Road Initiative to link China inland cities, especially in the west side city, to the international trading countries, and it is one of the most significant global economic development plan in history. It involves many countries. So, and this you can see the Belt and Road, the initiative. The blue one shows the inland cities connect to the outside city, and then the pink one shows the how these cities from the near the sea, they connect to the other cities, other places in other countries through the sea. So so in this period, China's adult education evolved into a lifelong learning system. Is strongly aligned to the national strategies and focus on skill-based training and vocational training.
Professor Chang, Bo,
Yes.
we're at 20 minutes, and so
Oh, okay.
there are a lot of people ready to ask you questions, but if you want to end with one or two more points, that'd be great.
Oh, okay. So that's actually nearly the conclusion. So, we can say from 1949 to 70, it's focused on social education and peasant workers' illiteracy. It is a politically driven adult education. And so 1980 to 1990, the vocational continuing education shift to skills-based training and economic development, emphasis on workforce development. And 2000 until now, it's on building into lifelong learning system, and it's focused on economic social balance, address inequality, and promote a harmonious society. So let me stop sharing.
Thank you.
All right.
That was exciting to learn so much about the background of China's initiatives. I think at this point in time, I just want to start by asking you a question that's on everybody's mind. How
Yeah.
is the China dream, in your opinion, different from the American dream, whereby it is about anyone can do it, right? If they work hard enough, regardless of their background. So, how do you see it being different or similar, or in what sense, so that we get an idea?
Yeah, I think this is a good question. I would say both China Dream and American Dream, they emphasize individual hard work and through hard work to achieve your dream. This is actually true in China too. However, in China, I think it's more focused on the collective effort, especially the driven by the government effort, and that play a significant role here. So even for this, like lifelong learning, promotion lifelong learning, for example, to utilize resources from the different social sectors, this all need the government push because people trust government better and it move faster. So this kind of platform build up rely on the government effort. I think that is a significant difference. So.
Thank you. Mary?
Thank you, Farida. My first question for you, Bo, would be, in light of the Chinese dreams dual goals for 2021 and 2049, what specific strategies within vocational and continuing education do you see as most critical to bridging the gap between achieving a moderately well-off society and becoming a fully developed nation?
Yeah, I think the as we know that at the initial development, it is critical for government to invest money in the infrastructure and invest money in education and build up a policy. This is all important. However, as I did the project this summer in Inner Mongolia, I talked to the people, I talked to the some policy, the government officials, and from the conversation from the these people, and also those people who run this training training centers, they actually they were funded by the government to train the people, to train especially those farmers, for example, for them to in this urbanization process. However, I noticed that only this government push will not really play a significant role in the end if these programs cannot align with this these learners' needs. For example, they talk about training for the they provided funding for those people in the working in the farm, for example, and they only help those in a very difficult situation. For example, they were very poor. However, some said, this not just enough to provide the training for those people, because those people, they don't really want to work hard. And even if you offer the money for them to come, they come here mainly for the incentives, not really because they are interested in improving their skills. Another thing is that all these training programs, they have the guidelines from the national level. However, in the local level, there's a lot of varieties and differences, and these kind of like differences cannot be quickly reflected in the activities that provided for the learners. I think that is something need to be changed in order to have a further, much more advanced development. So,
Erin?
Thank you, Bo. My question is, in what ways could community-based lifelong learning models, as developed in China, be applied to enhance professional growth and reskilling opportunities in rapidly changing industries?
I think for the lifelong learning in China, in some other countries too, in Asian countries, the major thing is that the resources need to be shared among all these organizations, social units, institutions in the community. Like, for example, the companies, and they need to open some of their sites to the learners, and for the schools, for the community centers, and they share their resources with the people inside the community. So this kind of resource exchange is very important, I think. And also, I think this resource exchange, another thing is that technology really play an important role, especially in some big state-owned companies, like the telecommunication. In China, they actually a state-owned big companies, they share the branches across the nation. Inside that, they actually their AI, for example, supported learning is massive. They demonstrated to me what it looked like. They build up inside resource sharing among all the employees across the nation. So basically, all the employees in each unit, they can share resources online, and they were supported by AI, which significantly promoted their training and learning, I think. So.
Wow, that's pretty amazing, actually. I've seen, in terms of, just I used to have projects in China for 9 years, and I've seen that resource sharing, even through WeChat, for instance, the messaging, now I'm sure it's beyond that. The other thing that you said, which reminds me of, in terms of what Mary was asking, there's a saying in China, and correct me if I'm wrong, in terms of the policies at the upper level and what happens on the ground. I think the saying I heard in China is that heaven is high and the emperor far away. We will do what needs to be done. We need, we do what needs to be done at the ground level. The next question that I have is from Maddie. And Maddie, she's a master's student in comparative and international education and also works in a museum. She has a question of, based on your work on the 40-year-old evolution of Chinese adult education, and with the ever-changing national strategic plans and goals in the country, how do you balance political and economic goals with community set goals? I guess we're trying to answer that already at this point in time, but the balance of those three factors is quite a juggle, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. So in China, you know, this kind of like a top-down driven approach can easily, you know, make the slogan, you know, make this good idea become a slogan, you know, to follow the political slogan. So this can easily become a problematic. Of course, so for the local community, and they have their own agendas to achieve, of course. And so in China, the lifelong learning system is it's organized from a very small unit, like the families and you know, the small community center and libraries, you know, the schools, companies. And so it is a very, very hard to, you know, balance all these needs, and we analyze this with a strategic goal. But it is true that, for example, for this employment-based training, and they have the national evaluation system, and you know, when center, you know, the owner even showed me what it looked like. They have these skills. They coded in different levels, and each level what is required. So they have a very specific structured you know, evaluation systems. And of course, they also said for the local people who found out this does not work in local, for example, it does not work, and you can also report this to the upper level. Say this is what is not working and what we recommended. So this is a slow process, but actually it's also is a one way to really reflect the community needs and what they think is you know, durable. So
I think the structure is very interesting. I see that in the school systems too, whereby there's a micro structure leading all the way to the macro, which I think is a very Chinese and very interesting way of operating. Yeah.
It's amazing how they can differentiate the you know, different areas, even for example, in the office worker, or for those in the industry areas, each you know, each industry they identified into different levels and what knowledge they need to have. It's amazing. They could differentiate that much details. So
yes, it's pretty amazing. Mary, you had a question that you're drawing from?
Yes, thank you, Farida. Bo, this question is from Jamie. She's an assistant professor of dentistry. Jamie asks, given China's strong emphasis on job-ready skills in adult education, what potential consequences might arise from the relative neglect of creativity, civic education, and personal development?
That is a that is true that you know, this kind of like large scale government run programs usually they have a very strong structure, and they have a very strong focus, mainly focus on economic development and skill-based training, and it can easily really fall in the trap of very become stiff, you know, and so that is true. And when I did my project this summer, they told me very interesting that in order to say the result of the learning activities, they have the camera in each classroom, and to supervise, say, if the students are learning or if they are sleeping, right? So because a lot of times these activities are mainly instructor focused, so they are more lectures oriented. So learners can easily fall asleep. So because this, like for example, for the farmers, they told me a very interesting story. For farmers, they come here mainly because they were funded by the government. They give them money for food, for transportation, everything. They basically nearly like making the money out of side of this. But what they are talking about really has no much relevance to their work or their professional work. So that's why that is a problem. And then they said they use this camera to supervise, to make sure these people are listening, not just falling asleep or doing other things. But this caused also a lot of a problem for the trainers because there's a lot of effort put inside and also money involved. Also, because this initiative, they only funded you if these people after training, they can get a job. And you need to have 80% of a 80% of a rate of employment. For example, you have 100 learners. If 80 of them get a job after training, you can get fund by the government, which is a difficult actually. That's why a lot of this, especially the private training centers, they nearly like run out of a business because of this, because they cannot make money out of this. So in terms of civil education or whatever, all this creativity, this is something that is missing. That is true. So yeah.
Yeah, I think every system has its, has its holes, right?
Yes.
What you just said reminds me of something, when I was observing classrooms and I was observing daily during one of my sabbaticals, there were the principal's office, the whole wall was covered with screens of each classroom. I've never seen anything like that before in the US. I thought that's interesting. And so I think your response to the question that was asked by Jamie is also the same question that Natalia has asked, and she's a high school teacher, English language teacher, about the place of creativity, the place of being civic, well-rounded citizens, etc. So I think you've answered two questions there in one. And so, Erin, you want to take the next question?
Yes, I have a question from Ashley. Ashley says, you mentioned that adult education in China is closely aligned with national development goals, including addressing disparities between regions and social groups. How effective have learning communities been in reducing these disparities, and what lessons might other countries take from China's approach?
Yeah, I would say a lot of these activities offered in the learning communities, offered in the especially in the community setting, like centers. They are a lot of them are entry level activities. So these are good for keeping the society stable, which is good. And also it's good for example, for the migrant workers. They first came to the cities and they have no clue where to get help and where to go. So these places offer quite a lot of good guidance on this. But when they further developed, for example, they need a much more advanced skills and education. This usually the community setting did not really play a significant role. However, for the workplace setting, they can play a much bigger role in this. That's why this lifelong learning system, the government actually financially supported, encourage this kind of like activities. For example, for a lot of companies, they don't really want to investment on the education or training because their major role is to make a profit, not to really train people, right? So they are not really interested in that. However, the government have the policy say, okay, if you have how many people trained, achieve what kind of progress, and you will get how much money, or you will get such a policy benefit. They do have this. They not only train their people from their employees, but also the people outside their organization. They offer some kind of a training activities for people outside of societies too. So these play a significant role. So I think it's still really the policy play a very big role inside. So
is that what you're saying, that we can learn from China, that a policy?
I think it's the same here in US, even though we don't really think that government can play a big role in adult education, but actually it does. In the book, that Changing Landscape Adult Education that I wrote, I studied the adult education since 1950s, and every decade when adult education play a significant role, government always play a significant role inside. The policy plays significant role inside. And it also aligns significantly with national development, strategic development. For example, in 1950s, when the soldiers come back from the war, and a lot of them, they need a civic education, they need the general education, and that's how the government, they have the policy initiated, they have the money investigated, and that's how the GIE influenced a lot of soldiers. And then in 1960s, for example, the political movement is a very unstable period, a chaotic period time, and that's how the government initiated the policy to develop the adult education. That's how they significantly developed until 1980s, for example. It's nearly like play a very similar role like here in China. Like 1980s, they said, okay, the political period gone, and now we need to develop an economy now. That's how the adult education significantly focus on the economic development, and that's how HRD played a significant role in training developed significantly. Until now, they highly focus on the economic development. However, a lot of times adult education did not really really align well with that national role. That's how they really ignore that really political power, how that played in the role in the development of adult education. So
yeah, I mean, I think it remains to be seen, although the policies are there, adult education is highly underfunded in this country. And
that's
so
true.
and so I think and it's interesting how we look at policies and its implementation. Quite two different stories there. And so Erin, I think I'm going to pass the next question to you because Jasmine is here. Can you take Jasmine's question?
Yes, absolutely. I saw that in the Q&A. Thank you. So Jasmine is donor relations at the Illinois University in Urban Champaign. Sorry, Jasmine, I hope I got all that right. But her question is very good. It's one of your article discusses the role of community education and lifelong learning initiatives in building a harmonious society. What mechanisms and partnerships, possibly with private donors or international collaborators, are most effective in sustaining these programs beyond government investment?
Yeah. So even though government really play a significant role, but from the operational level or implementation level, actually, the variety of social units and organizations actually are encouraged to involve in this process, including the private institutions, organizations, and also international organizations. So this actually especially significant in the higher education. And that's how we say a lot of the private organizations from the other countries, they have joint collaboration with universities or educational institutions in China to promote this process. And that's how a lot of adult learners, they learn the different cultures, they learn the skills from the other countries. For example, in the past, the vocational education is high, it's a deep valued in China. The people really think it's important until later they learn from Germany the vocational education. and they developed the vocational training system of the borrowed ideas from them. And also like the Swedish Study Circle, actually some educational leaders, they visited all the North European countries, they learned their study circles. It's kind of like a formal, informal structured way of providing the learning activities for the learners. That's how the investment input this into the community hosted activities. So this, but for those outside organizations, in order to play a better role, you have to really under the framework of the lifelong learning, or under the framework that the government really appreciates. So.
Oh, Dr. Palwan, you're unmuted.
Sorry, your audio is choppy, Bo. And so if you, if I think it's either the storm, I can see the storm outside, or so we'll keep going, but I think it might help if you turn off video.
Oh,
Might help if you turn off video.
I'll turn off video?
Your video.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I turn off the video.
Okay. All right. And then when it stabilizes, come back on. And so the next question, I think, Mary, you want to take the next question?
Absolutely. I have a question from Nicole. She's the director of the IU Visitor Center. Nicole would like to ask, what are the other 7 tasks in the lifelong education system for the 2010-2020 National Education Reform Strategic Plan?
Yeah, I could not remember exactly the 7 tasks, but I think for the lifelong education system in China, it's involves from really the elementary education until higher ed, adult education, and outer school education is so they all part of the lifelong learning system, which should be highly appreciated and in this process. So it's actually play an important role to especially set adult education as the important part of a lifelong education. So yeah.
We sort of turned off our video and audio, but we're still with you here. So I think we've gone through several of the questions, and if we could switch gears a little bit, because there are 2 questions on your other article on cross-cultural communication. And so one of the things, I think one of the questions is from Janine. If I may ask that question, because this question goes to your other article on cross-cultural communication. Is that okay, Bo?
Yeah, go ahead.
So the question is, there's this cultural dimensions theory. There are many of them, including Hofstede and Hall and whatnot. And in your article by Kang and Chang in 2016 has investigated how people from different cultural and country backgrounds can understand each other. And so do you have specific recommendations for teachers who are designing online courses for adult learners in 2025 to address this cross-cultural differences?
Yeah, I think I can give example, for example, in the Chinese context, in the higher ed classroom, we usually the teacher they lecture a lot, and student usually they listen. That is a format that happen. I would say even today, and however, one Canadian professor, he came to East China Normal University, and he introduced his way of Western way of teaching. To do the activities and to ask a student to discuss. you would be surprised that the dynamic could immediately change to this very active role, and students could discuss and they do activities just like students in Western, universities. So I think environment really can constrain a lot of behaviors, and but when this dynamic change, a student can adapt actually. And then when I came to United States for my doctorate degree program, and I kept silent a lot of times. I think the one major factor is that I could not understand because of a barrier from the language and also the culture difference. And for the same words, the power, for example, I understood the power in China is totally different than the power here. So here the power has a much more nuanced meanings compared with what I learned power in China. So that's why there's communication barriers, not just on the language, but also, in the way of understanding things. The professor allowed me to keep silent for 1 year, so they did not ask me questions, which is really make me feel very comfortable. After 1 year, when my language improved significantly, my reading improving significantly, I behave just like American students, and I talk very actively, question professors. So I think sometimes it's not culture may influence people, but when that dynamic change, people can adapt very quickly. If they don't adapt very quickly, it might be other reasons, might not be totally because of the culture influence. That's my understanding. So yeah.
Thank you. If you guys try to turn back on your video, that might be nice. So we have a few minutes. You've been responding left and right with all the questions, Bo. It's kind of exciting. Is there something that we did not ask that you would like to share?
Yeah, one thing I want to mention, I probably forgot to mention, is that really, you probably learned about the WeChat in Chinese community. Nearly like everybody use that. It's amazing how that actually employed by the government to really organize or manage the people in the community too. And like the training centers, they actually get the information about learners or send the information to them about activities through all this WeChat community. Like in the neighborhood, in each building, for example, they have a called a neighborhood association or community. They have each member's WeChat, and they send the information through them. So each one responsible for one area. That's how they can really locate nearly everybody's information. I think that's really amazing how that technology can play a role. So yeah.
I know, it's pretty amazing. I mean, it's everywhere. And
Yeah.
so, Mary and Aaron, are there questions that you would like to ask next few minutes? Or any of our guests here that are online with us? But Mary and Aaron, go ahead.
I really like Janine's question about what would help you do your work better. I think it's a nice, curious question about the work that you're doing, Bo, or what would help. I think that's what she meant.
Yeah. It's you would be surprised. Actually, I like to work alone individually. So even though I came from a collective culture, but I actually work a lot individually. However, I do say the merit over collaborating with other people and also going to the side. I usually like to stay at home and doing my project, but when I go outside, talk to people, and just sometimes visit some places, I was surprised to find out how much I did not learn and how much that can impact my project. For example, in this summer, I visited countryside, and just by accident, and one friend said, "Okay, I'll show you what have changed here. So he showed us the countryside, the project they did and what had changed. That is something that is unexpected. I did not realize that. But later then when I talked to the people and to the relative friends, I associated this significantly with this project I'm doing, and how adult education really significantly changed because of the national strategy change, and how this Western Development Initiative really changed the countryside too. And then I associated with the one owner of the private training organization. He told me how these training activities actually a lot of times they are not highly relevant to what farmers need. So this all connect together. So that's why I think sometimes it's very good to really talk to people, to go to the site. That is really important for us, especially doing education. So, yeah.
So is that your project, connecting policy to practice?
This summer, the project is about employment-based training, employment-based skill training. So it is highly connected to the government-initiated program and highly connected to the policy. So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Mary? Thank you. Mary?
Yes, I think feeding off of that, Ashley has a good question. Given that adult education policies often change with leadership transitions, what mechanisms or cultural shifts can help sustain long-term adult education goals beyond political cycles?
Yeah, that is a good question. So the as we can say, even though the leadership changed, the national development strategies changed, and the focus of adult education may change, but the activities, learning activities offered for adult learners, this will not change. It's all focused on the training, literacy, and this kind of activities. What have been changed is really one, based on what the policy requires, you follow that guidelines. And second might change because of technology changed, or the social needs changed. So like, for example, this summer, one trainer told me that they have a quite hot interest in the, the AI, for example, AI technology, because of the AI development. So this kind of a change with the social development, it doesn't matter which leadership you are in. So these needs are still there. What change is really, focus, maybe, the bigger national goal may change, but for how you do that and what kind of activity you offered, this will not be changed. So,
Well, I think this is all very interesting to all of us. And I think, one of the things that I've often heard in China is that when you have all these policies and then they don't work, there's a saying that people always say to me: when you fall down 7 times, you get up 8. Which I think is a fantastic end to this, to encapsulate some of the efforts that you are describing about doing things over and over again. And so we are almost at 8, Lao Shi, which means teacher. Is there anything you want to leave us a thought with as we close this webinar?
yeah, I think what you said is very interesting. And also previously, you think one thing I found very interesting is that policy is a policy. There's always, different strategies to cater to the policy. So that's that's how it works. That's how, when I collect data in Shanghai, and that man told, the leader in the community told me, people outside of the circle, they may say, oh, how hard it is, and you may not be able to work this way. It's so hard, but there's always that gray area that work out well. It's just people outside don't know. That's how the contacts play an important role. You are in this contact, you know a lot of inside information, you know how to change. So that's how, yeah, that's how it works. So
Right. Right. I remember another saying, something about water from far away cannot put the fire right in your backyard. That's another Chinese saying that I remember. But again, thank you so much. We are grateful for your time and for your expertise. Again, your book that will come out in September 12th is called The Changing Landscape
Landscape of Adult Education.
Education. Congratulations. We look
Thank you.
forward to that book, and thank you so much for tonight.
Oh, thank you so much for inviting me and to join this seminar. Thank you. I appreciate
Thank
that.
you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.